Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. Today, Flying Taco takes on Nelosi as the forces of Bretonnia and the Greenskins respectively, duking it out at Spite Reach. The battlefield itself today is not too crazy, relatively simple in fact. There are some trees to that far left side where a sneaky flanking maneuver can be prepared, and to the far right side there are some obstructions that could get in the way of cavalry should they try to march through those few rocks on that far right. But most of the action is going to take place in the middle over here, where we have a pair of mounds that either side can use to take advantage of, well, height advantages, but nothing too crazy today. So let's begin by taking a look at overall composition and deployment. We've got Bretonnia over here deployed using the trees ever so slightly with Luen Leoncoeur in charge up in the air. He does have with him a damsel of beasts on horseback as well, while up front you can see we've got 3 units of peasant mob, and on either flank we have a pair of spearmen at arms over here and some men at arms over here. We've got some more spearmen at arms over here providing some anti-large support, with some more men at arms over here hoping to, I think, support the front lines, while back over here you can see a pair of foot squires with their anti-infantry and armor piercing capabilities. In the middle as well we can see some battle pilgrims, sort of, I suppose, escorting the damsel over here, while on either flank we have some cavalry as well. We've got a pair of questing knights over here. We've got the Companions of Canel, the questing knight regiment of renown, in the trees over here as well, while back over here we have some Grail Guardians coming in with their magical damage output as well as their physical resistance. On the other side of the field we have the Greenskins. They are already basically posted up on the hill over here. They are being led by none other than Wurzag, the Great Green Prophet, and he's coming in fully loaded with everything from Effigy of the Git to, of course, Wa, to, Fists of Gork. He's got a little bit of everything over here, and he's brought with him an Arachnarok Queen as well, the Regiment of Renown of the Arachnarok Spider. You can see we've got a fair number of goblins forming the front lines, but they also have some black orcs to provide some extremely heavy-hitting support. We have some goblins back over here as well, alongside some of the Orc Boar Boy Biggin, so a fair bit of anti-large capabilities, and we also have the Orc Boar Boy Biggin Regiment of Renown Broken Tusks Mob. You can see also, to the side over here, we have Dirkit Squigs, the Night Goblin Squig Hopper Regiment of Renown. They are anti-infantry and armor piercing, can chew through peasant mobs very easily, so probably going to use them in that way. While up front over here, we have the Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers, as well as the Goblin Wolf Rider Archers over here and over here, hoping to get a little bit of harassment done from range nice and early. So with all that said and done, let's see how it all breaks down. Bretonnia moving forward and positioning themselves at an angle over here as the Greenskins as well form up at an angle. So looking to duke it out in this general direction. You can see Luen Leoncoeur pushing off to that side already, maybe hoping to scout, seeing if there's any stalking units coming up from that side, but not committing to anything, not wanting to get too close to any of these ranged units before he starts taking any damage. While over here you can see we have all of these ranged units sort of pivoting off to the side over here, looking for an opportunity to maybe fire away, get some early damage in to some higher tier units. Don't really want to waste shots on peasant mob. You can see a slightly bit of a risk being taken over here, moving in closer and closer, and I think the Bretonnians pulling back ever so slightly to try and bait a commitment over here so that the cavalry can respond and crush some of those skirmishers nice and early. And you can see the Damsel of Beasts over here moving off to the side, while Luen Leoncoeur is pushing up in that general direction, hoping to maybe dive in, get some damage done, but has to stay wary of the anti-large units, of course. While over here you can see we do have these guys moving a little too close, deciding to pull back away from the peasant mob, because the peasant mob can swarm them and hold them in place. But you can see we've got Dirkit Squigs here, seeing the opportunity to dive on into the peasant mob and start chomping away, but the peasant mob decides to pull back into relative safety, as back over here the questing knights are maybe angling for a charge. You can see we've got these spearmen at arms moving in as well. The Dirkit Squigs pull back into safety, and as we have a lot of these Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers again moving a little too close, we've got the questing knights able to push in. The peasant mob are actually able to tie down some of these Forest Goblin Spider Rider Archers, which is a dangerous position for them to be in, as the questing knights are able to charge on in and hopefully do a fair bit of work nice and early. But as Wa gets triggered over here, you can see Broken Tusks Mob is among the crowd as well, and they're going to do a fair bit of damage to our questing knights over here. Of course, the Broken Tusks Mob are anti-large and armor piercing, and Wa is going to help them tremendously. But you can see in response over here, the Damsel of Beasts is bringing in some support in the form of a Feral Manticore. So in comes the Feral Manticore, while over here the Effigy of the Git holds these questing knights in place, allowing the Dirkit Squigs to pull back into safety, while all of these skirmishing units pull back into safety as well. Back on this left flank, meanwhile, you can see these goblins are in a little bit of trouble as the peasant mob moves in to pin them in place, and Luen Leoncoeur is trying to get some work done as well. You can see he uses the Sword of Couron to reduce melee defense and armor over here, and you can see we've got these Companions of Canel moving in, charging into the Orc Boar Biggins, not too worried about their anti-large capabilities, hoping to take advantage of that Sword of Couron to try and cause some damage right now. We've got the Foot Squires moving in there as well, trying to crush those goblins as quickly as possible, while on this right flank you can see the Bretonnians are having a lot of trouble. These Spearmen at Arms are being forced back. We also have these Questing Knights over here being forced back, and all of these skirmishers doing a fair bit of damage to try and eliminate these cavalry units as quickly as possible, while over here you can see we did get Dirkit Squigs diving on in to try and eliminate some of these men at arms as well as these Spearmen at Arms. Good pushes over here. Flock of Doom there caused a little bit of damage to the Greenskins, but not nearly enough, as all of these Greenskin cavalry units are able to chase after some of these Grail Guardians, force them back. Luen Leoncoeur decides to dive on in to intercept and slow these guys down, allowing some of these Companions of Canel to dive on in response, allowing these Foot Squires to turn around and getting those Spearmen at Arms in as well. Anti-large capabilities will of course be quite helpful, and you'll see a very quick sort of reversal in positioning. That left flank was definitely a victory for the Bretonnians, and that right flank was definitely a loss for them, and just like that we've got these armies sort of swapping positions. You can see some of these goblins and those Orc Boar Boy Biggins under the influence of Sword of Couron and all have been forced back. The Foot Squires did a wonderful job. Even these peasant mobs here did a great deal of damage, all things considered, and so now the armies are meeting in the middle, and we have yet another Feral Manticore being brought up to the field, as the first Feral Manticore is a little out of control, very low on health, very low on morale, probably going to drop any moment now. The Arachnarok Queen, meanwhile, has decided to dive on in and take a look at this beautiful use, at this absolutely magnificent use of Brainburster. These Companions of Canel had their health dropped by about 20% with that one spell there. Wonderfully done there. Saw the clump and dropped the magic right on top of it. Meanwhile, over here you can see Get Back Here has been activated by Wurzag over here, trying to keep the leadership up as all of these Foot Squires close the gaps. Luen Leoncoeur, you can see, takes to the air and falls back as the Feral Manticore decides to dive in instead. Again, a bit of a dangerous situation over here with the Arachnarok Queen being anti-large and armor piercing, but that is the scariest unit that the Greenskins have right now. And off in the distance over here you can see we do have some of these Force Goblin Spider Rider archers pulling back, while off over there we have these Goblin Wolf Rider archers who have pushed way too far back, and they're just kind of sitting there not really doing much. They have to pull in. They need to focus over here and get some more damage per second happening, while Here We Go is active over here, and that's going to help a fair bit with melee attack, but unfortunately that does nothing for melee defense. So these Broken Tusks mob are having a little bit of trouble over here as they do get surrounded by Luen Leoncoeur as well as some of these Foot Squires diving on in there. These goblins have stood and fought for a fair bit of time, but now with that Flock of Doom coming in as well, you can see their morale dropping. In comes the Terror as well, thanks to Luen being there as well, and you can see the Arachnarok Queen here trying to use Here We Go to her advantage, diving in on Luen there, but not doing enough, and Luen Leoncoeur is able to pull back into safety and take to the air potentially. In comes Effigy of the Get. Good call there, but unfortunately just a little too late there, as you can see the Damsel of Beasts as well, looking for an opportunity maybe to get involved, to dive in somewhere, as over here these Broken Tusks mob are giving up on the fight, and the Spider Hatchlings over here don't stand much of a chance either. Luen very nicely staying in the air there, replenishing his health, and then deciding to dive back in, being very cautious about diving in. Of course, it's a dangerous place to be in, but you can see in he goes to Wurzag, I think, who is low on health and morale as well. So Wurzag decides to pull back into safety. He is on board back, so he will be able to get back relatively safely, while over here we also get the Sword of Couron activated once more. That's going to be extremely helpful as another Brain Burster goes down over here, causing less damage than last time, but still every little bit counts right now. You can see the Damsel of Beasts over here chasing some of these units away, hoping to make sure they don't come back from their routes, while back over here we see some more Spider Hatchlings being brought in by that Arachnarok Queen, just hoping to maybe get a nice rear charge into some of these Foot Squires, cause that morale damage that might get them to break, while Luen over here dives into Wurzag once more, again low on health and morale, and now with Sword of Couron activated as well, his melee defense is down to 0, so he has to run away. He gets terrified off, while back over here you can see we do have some of these Goblin Wolf Rider archers firing away at the Companions of Canel, but they are going to be chased down. We have the Peasant mob trying to chase them down, trying to keep them at bay, and these Goblin Wolf Rider archers really haven't done all that much work. They haven't been able to focus down on any single high-value target, which is why they're in a little bit of trouble over here. Even now, as they move up over here, you can see they'll be surrounded very quickly. Bit of a bad call. Pushing into attack Luen there, not a bad call there, but the positioning there was a bit of a nightmare. Now having to pull through some of these Spearmen at Arms, not able to do so too smoothly, but you can see they're kind of rolling through but being slowed down at the same time. While back over here you can see these Black Orcs using the Fists of Gork to help with melee attack and melee defense. That's going to be absolutely huge to try and hold the line against these Foot Squires as well as these Spearmen at Arms. Not a bad call there at all. With that little bit of health and morale left, they might be able to hold the line, while back over here you can see we finally have some of these skirmishing units now firing away again, but Again, just not focused down on Luen there. I think some of the shots were going on to the Spearmen at Arms and some other shots over here. In comes the Flock of Doom on Wurzag, and Luen dives in as well. Really great job there, pulling Wurzag back at the last moment and sending these Forest Goblin Spider Riders in to try and slow Luen Leoncoeur down and cause a little bit of damage, but unfortunately in comes the Terror more or less instantaneously, and that Damsel is going to chase after Wurzag, and Luen takes to the air, probably going to chase after Wurzag as well, while back on that right side you can see we have the Arachnarok Queen looking for an opportunity to dive in and scare off those Spearmen at Arms, maybe needing to turn around and chase after some of these men at arms over here. That would not be a bad idea. These spider hatchlings chasing after these foot squires that are already terrified. A good rear charge over here might have made a huge difference in finishing off these men at arms, or at least getting them to give up on the fight, while the companions of Kinel, you can see over here, intercepting and charging into the spider hatchlings as well, while off in the distance these goblin wolf riders and spider rider archers, are giving up on the fight. Terror is kicking in. You can see the Grail Guardians giving chase, but not really needing to, as Luen over here pulls up and moves towards the main engagement. Wurzag has given up on the fight as well. A couple of quick charges from even the Damsel might finish him off, and I think the Damsel is deciding to do exactly that, chase after that green beast and finish him off once and for all, while over here you can see the Arachnarok Queen sort of indecisive as to where to dive in. Luen is able to push back over here as a result to provide some assistance to these men-at-arms, while over here the Arachnarok Queen, she's going to do a fair bit of damage, but unfortunately, of course, we do have these Spearmen-at-Arms able to turn around, pivot really quickly, and move down towards that Queen. Again, they are anti-large, so the Arachnarok Queen might be in a touch of trouble over here if she doesn't get out of there. You can see Luen Leoncoeur deciding to maybe dive on in there, but at the last moment decides to pull back into safety and take to the air. Wasn't able to keep these battle pilgrims from giving up on the fight, but ultimately he takes to the air as these Spearmen at Arms decide to dive on in and surround the Arachnarok Queen. And you can see off over here we have some of these foot squires as well, just kind of sitting there not doing anything. They need to move in, but over here with the Sword of Kuhan coming in, that Arachnarok Queen is going to be in a tremendous amount of trouble. You can see we do have a little bit of support coming in with the cavalry as well, charging on in. We got Stand Your Ground activating so that melee defense is high among the Bretonnians, and we have these spider hatchlings coming through, but they're going to give up right away, terrified immediately. And look at the Arachnarok Queen over here. Health and morale dropping so swiftly, and off in the distance these foot squires still not really involved, just sitting there and watching as the Arachnarok Queen is slaughtered by, I suppose, Luen himself. It's a bit of a show to watch, and just like that, with the Arachnarok Queen shattering and giving up on the fight, the Greenskins are defeated. It is a Pyrrhic victory for the Bretonnians. The battle was relatively balanced all the way through, with the two armies focusing on opposite flanks at the beginning and emerging victorious in each case. The Greenskins did a decent job of keeping Bretonnian cavalry at bay for the most part with their anti-large options, but I think what ultimately cost them the battle was misuse of these skirmishing units, or rather missed use of these skirmishing units. They did get some damage in here and there, but they were rarely able to focus anything down, and they were being pretty persistently chased around and kept at arm's length from high-value targets. Good use of magic allowed the goblins and black orcs to perform exceptionally well, but that was unfortunately just not enough. Both generals led very well, but the Bretonnians, with that excellent use of Sword of Kuhan and the multiple feral manticores, won the day. As always, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more Total War content and keep sending in those battle replays at the Discord link in the description down below. I'd like to thank all of my patrons and channel members for supporting the channel on a monthly basis, and I'd like to thank you for watching. I'll see you on the battlefield.